Sometimes an avoidant will say that they've fallen out of love or their feelings have changed suddenly. Or sometimes they'll feel like their feelings have changed, or there's been a sudden drop in the connection or their ability to connect the way that they might have wanted to or hoped that they could in the beginning. And on the receiving end of that, that's really, really stressful. It feels like, what did I do wrong? Am I not enough? And you question yourself and you doubt yourself. So in this video, I want to challenge all of that and give you an entirely new possibility, an entirely new perspective. So before I get into this video, I'd like to let you know I've got 25% discount on my one-to-one coaching while it's available. So I don't often have my coaching on my website, but at the moment, because I have capacity, I've got space, I have opened it up and I do a discount maybe once a year. And so that's now. And if you would like some one-to-one coaching, you'd like someone to go through what happened, you'd like to process it with somebody who's seen thousands and thousands of situations with an avoidantly attached partner, then let me know. You can find out all the information in the links below. Really, what I want for you is for you to feel connected back to yourself again, because that's where we have the most power, the most agency over our whole life, and relationships can transform from that place. But when you've been with somebody who is avoidant, that's where you start losing yourself. You start saying less of how you really feel. You start being less of who you really are. And before you know it, very incrementally, you're not the person that you wanted to be, that you thought you could be with this person. And you're a shell of yourself. And that feels awful. Okay, so you might have been in the situation where somebody said they don't feel the same, their feelings have changed, they're not in love anymore and they don't know why. Or you might be an avoidant yourself, thinking, what the hell happened? Where did my feelings go? Because suddenly they can somehow just flip, they change in an instant sometimes. And that feels really impossible. It feels really impossible to be on the receiving end of it, and you think, oh God, not again, if you're the avoidant in that situation. So if you're with an avoidant thinking, what on earth just happened? They themselves might also be thinking the same thing and feeling the same thing and feeling frustrated with the fact that their feelings feel different. I know somebody who was on a train journey once, and they started the train journey with excitement and hope and possibility for a partner, and by the end of the train journey their feelings had suddenly changed. They dropped and they thought, oh, what's happened? Why this again? And the thing is that there's a difference between falling in love, and remember, love bombing feels very much like love, especially if you haven't had a healthy model of love in your growing up life. When you've been love bombed by somebody who's like really wants a relationship to work, they see all the hope, they see all the possibility, they can love bomb you at the beginning, and that feels like love, but it's not love, it's more like fantasy. They haven't fallen in love at that point, they've fallen in love with the idea, and they're not actually authentically being themselves. We're most likely to fall in love when we are being ourselves, when we're connected to ourselves. And so because avoidants wear a mask a lot of the time at the beginning of relationships, because they're trying to protect themselves, they're trying to be how the other person thinks maybe they want them to be, but actually they're not being truly authentic. So from that place they can only have a surface level connection, and they're very performative at that point, and it's a mask, and it's not a deliberate trick, like unlike narcissism, which is a different thing altogether. But avoidants don't mean to do this. They're very unconsciously driven. And so they're trying to make a relationship work in the only way they know how, which is to be the way other people expect them to be or want them to be in order for them to feel safe, to fit in. But when they start being more themselves and they start feeling like, oh, that's not right, but I don't know how to say it because that's going to disappoint them, or I don't want to do this thing, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, I'm starting to feel like I'm losing myself, I'm starting to feel like I'm going to be engulfed in this situation, then the cracks start to show, and they might have this moment of overwhelm where their state changes. So that's where it looks like they've fallen out of love suddenly, but actually their state has changed. They've got overwhelmed. And also remember that in order to fall in love, you have to, in order to fall out of love, you have to be able to fall in love. And because avoidants actually struggle with this, they like the idea of someone or something a lot of the time, but they struggle to actually be in that authentic place for long enough for them to actually fall in love. And they may dip in and out of that, getting close to it. And that's where you feel that sense of connection and possibility. But then they pull out of it really easily as well. And so I have this thing with falling in and out of love. We don't actually fall in love, do we? We grow towards knowing someone, we grow towards admiration of somebody, we grow in chemistry with somebody. But falling in love is an interesting phrase, isn't it? Because we don't fall in love, we develop feelings over time, and they don't just disappear. They don't disappear. What changes is our state. What changes is, especially with avoidance, when they get overwhelmed, they go into the flight mode. And it looks to them and to you and to everybody like they don't love you anymore. But actually, they've gone into a protective mechanism. So, my sort of the sad perspective of this is that I think avoidants find it actually harder to be in love, and therefore they can't really fall out of love. But at the same time, the feelings that they do develop don't often suddenly just go out of nowhere. It's usually this process that changes their state so they don't feel able to stay present. Like when you're in survival mode, you find it harder to have a nice soft moment with someone because you're in hypervigilance, you're in protection mode. And avoidants have their own way of doing that makes connection a lot harder. And they always want to be right about their experience too. They want to be right about their feelings. They want to be right about it because that protects them too. And when we're trying to be right, we can't get connection. So it feels like they're not in love. You know, this is one of the things that I think both sides of the coin struggle with. The anxious party wants to be right. They want to be right about their perspectives, what they need. They want to be right about their feelings, their anxiety, and the avoider wants to be right about their avoidance. And from that place, there is a huge amount of disconnection, and both people struggle to feel authentically in love, right? So this is just another way of seeing it. And especially if like somebody has suddenly gone, they were with you, they were connected, there was possibility, there was hope, they were really, challenging themselves, there was like growth, there was movement forward, and then suddenly they went, oh, I've got to go. That's not them falling out of love, that's them getting overwhelmed. And that was them growing towards that sense of authenticity. And as soon as they get towards true authenticity, they start feeling afraid, and that threatens them. Because remember, closeness was threatening to them in their childhood. Closeness was something that maybe equaled shame or judgment or being left. And so their defenses come up really quickly when they start to feel those emotions. So in a way, it's a sign that if somebody said they suddenly, and this is the case for like if it's suddenly they change their feelings, actually there was something there that was meaningful, there was something that challenged them, you know and there was something where that old defense mechanism came up and pulled them back. This is not for you to go, oh, they do love me after all, they do want me, they do care. It was getting somewhere, we were growing, they were getting towards their authentic truth. I want to stay, I want to stay, I want to stay. Remember that you also matter too, and like you also need a safe space to be your authentic self as well. And if you think that somebody's gonna be there, then not be there, then your hypervigilance, your already baseline of anxiety will go up even more with somebody like this. And we want to be growing towards relationships where we can feel so safe in our nervous system that we can be truly ourselves. And that's got to be a conscious effort from both people in this situation, not just one. Okay. So if you're trying to do all of that and you're trying to create the ground for this person to be authentically themselves, you think it's selfless, you think you're doing it for them, but actually you're doing it for you. And that over time will make you fall out of love. That will make you resent them. So we are not attracted to somebody that we control or feel controlled by. we are not, we don't stay safe in that playful, attractive chemistry energy, So you have to watch what you're doing too, because if you're kind of on some level trying to make it right for them, trying to create the breeding ground for like safety for them, you may very much end up leaving yourself, doing things for them over you. And I'm not saying that that's not something that can happen in a balanced, healthy relationship, because obviously it can, but you have to watch that you're not doing it perpetually to the point where you're leaving yourself, saying yes when you mean no, you know, going there, meeting them there instead of them, meeting you in the middle, it's got to be a two-way street, and you can only do your part. So if you found this video interesting or useful, or you'd like to go into this a bit more, then let me know. It's something that I see all the time with my clients, and it's not your fault. That's the main thing. It's not your fault that this person is this way, and all you can do is work on your side of the street, and that's what will change your dynamics in relationships going forward. So if you want any more information about what I do, if you'd like to use the 25% discount on the one-to-one, you can find out all the information about that in the link below. Use the discount code May25, or come to the living room on Wednesdays every week at 1 o'clock. And if not, then I'll see you in the next video. Bye.